Ashwin, one more question which I want you to explain to the listeners, for the benefit of our listeners. What, according to you, are the negatives in the bill? Is it just that the PM is out of purview?
Actually, having the Prime Minister or the judiciary out of the purview of the bill is not a major issue, in my opinion. There are two things that are really major issues and one other that is necessary. The two major things are, number one, any bill on corruption must apply to everybody who is the subject of an investigation. It cannot be that you say, oh, some officers in the government are covered by the law, but others are not covered by the law. When there is a crime, the investigation should lead wherever the evidence points. Therefore, we want every single official to be covered. This is non-negotiable. The second thing is that we have always said we want a law that is uniformly for the central government and for the states. The government's version sets up a Lokpal in the center, but there are no Lokayuktas in the states empowered by similar legislation. Now, you can always say that nothing stops the state governments from creating their own Lokayuktas Act. After all, Karnataka has a reasonably good Lokayukta Act. But we think that's a much slower process. The Right to Information Act, for example, was created as a national law applicable at state as well as center. And we want that model to be followed so that the Lokpal bill also becomes an anti-corruption law that is applicable across the whole state, across the whole country at all levels of government.
These
are the two major issues. The third thing, I should say, the third thing from a functional point of view is to integrate the multiple investigative agencies. The CBI has an anti-corruption wing. You have a vigilance commission. What we are saying that for all these bodies to work effectively, they must all be under the control of the Lokpal. You can't have one set of investigators over here, the Enforcement Directorate does its own thing, the CBI does its own thing, the CVC does its own thing, and the Lokpal will do its own thing. The Lokpal must be a body that brings together these multiple threads of investigation so that wherever an investigation leads, whether it is financial, whether it is motivated by other factors, there must be suitable ways of continuing the investigation within the ambit of the Lokpal itself. This is the third.
So, General Lokpal bill has all this in there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely clear. Prithvi, you must tell me. I believe Anna's team is divided over certain issues of the bill, like whether Prime Minister and Judiciary should be included or not. And Swami Agnivesh, I think he has spoken somewhere that we don't mind a compromise on this issue. Is it right or wrong?
I'd like to clarify. The only compromise that the Team Anna has stated even during the drafting committee meetings was that we would accept if the judiciary was kept outside the purview of the Lokpal, provided there is a judicial accountability bill introduced alongside the Lokpal bill. We are not insisting judiciary to be accountable to the Lokpal, but we are saying we need an equally strong law, but that needs to be passed alongside, because it is important that every citizen of India is covered by an anti-corruption law. Now, I think the Swami Agnivesh clarification was to say that what is more important for us is that every person in this country, lower bureaucracy, which actually affects the common man, the fact that we need a similar law in the states, because most of the time common people will be interacting with state government officials and not with central government officials. I think that was what was said, or I haven't heard what Swami Agnivesh said, but I'm sure that's what it meant, that the focus, our focus is not on the PM and judiciary, which has been discussed so far on the media. We are talking about corruption that affects the common man.
I didn't understand that. Can you explain that? What do you mean our focus is not on PM and judiciary? Mahesh, you can tell me. Ashwin, you can tell me.
Here's what I would say about the judiciary. You can be 100% sure that the politicians will not discipline themselves and leave the judiciary out. Frankly, they will go after the judiciary and get a judicial accountability bill also the minute a Lokpal bill is passed. What we have been asking is do it together. Let there be a judicial accountability bill at the same time. In fact, Justice Venkatachalaya and others have given a draft of this bill to the Government of India. So it is available for introduction in Parliament simultaneously and passage if they choose to. The judiciary will be covered. On that, I don't think there is any doubt. The PM, yes, various people have put forward arguments saying the PM should be included because the principle of including everybody is important. Some other people have said if you include the Prime Minister, it will create instability by motivated people who try to go after the Prime Minister and so on and so forth. Our own Prime Minister has gone back and forth saying initially that he should be included, then saying that I personally would like to be included, but in fact the Prime Minister should not be included. God knows how to interpret those kinds of things.
Ashwin, one question. What's your personal point of view? Personal view on whether Prime Minister or the judiciary should be included. Should they be included or not?
My own view is that the Prime Minister's office must be surely included. The Prime Minister, if he holds a portfolio as a particular minister, must be included under that portfolio. But as the Prime Minister himself, it is all right if he is included after he leaves office, but it doesn't matter if he is personally excluded.
Is this what General Lokpal Bill says?
No, this is not what the General Lokpal Bill says. But what I am trying to say is that you must look at the Prime Minister as the sum of all these things. There is the Prime Minister as an individual, there is a Prime Minister as a departmental head who is acting on certain things, and there is a Prime Minister's office of which the Prime Minister is the head.
Ashwin, in that, what we want to say is we can keep Prime Minister out of purview as an individual unless he heads a department, right?
Naturally.
That's what. But General Lokpal doesn't say so.
These are the kinds of issues on which I think there can be new ground. I'm not that worried. This is what I said. There are certain issues
So
on...
maybe Swami Agnivesh was referring to this one.
It's possible. What I'm trying to say...
Prithvi, what is your stand?
I also confer with what Dr. Ashwin says. Essentially, there are certain aspects of the Prime Minister's function which has to do with defense and security of this country, which we completely understand needs to be outside the purview of the Lokpal and cannot be under the purview of the Lokpal. What we are trying to say is we need to consider these things and have certain provisions of the bill, in the bill, which protects these aspects. But if the Prime Minister is your finance minister or holds the finance portfolio, it's but obvious that he needs to be under the purview as the person heading the finance portfolio.
Has Team Anna put forward this difference of opinion within the team to the government?
There is no difference of opinion between the team at all. This is a aspect which has been discussed even at the drafting committee. It's not that we said everything. What we said, for example, was that the Prime Minister is already open for investigation under the CBI. So what we are talking about is the corruption in the Prime Minister's office. It is not about defense or security matters, which we completely appreciate needs to be outside the purview.
No compromise whatsoever.
And if you notice, the ground has shifted. 3-4 months ago, the Prime Minister's stature was much higher. And when a certain claim was made about the Prime Minister, a lot of people were inclined to believe this. Today, people are calling us and saying, don't leave the Prime Minister out. And I think there's an important transformation that's taken place.
You know, that's a good clarification, because this was what I have been hearing from rather. Agarwal had a tough time talking to pressmen this morning, and he made very clear in what context Swami Agnivesh was spoken. I have no idea, but we are not going to compromise on any aspect of the bill. Very clear.